Let me bring these stories together because we have a story here. This is from Timcast.com. Police raid Virginia restaurant that defied COVID orders. Owner says state officials tried to strip him and his guests of their constitutional rights. The long story short, in Fredericksburg, there is Gourmelts is the name of the place, right? And it's a business that refused to shut down during the lockdowns, the masks and all that stuff. So they are trying to take away the liquor license. They say police officers entered a Fredericksburg, Virginia restaurant and executed a warrant to confiscate alcohol and records pertaining to the sale of alcohol after the state's Alcoholic Beverage Control Authority, ABC, revoked the restaurant's liquor licenses following the owner's refusal to follow mandates issued during the COVID pandemic. The restaurant's owner, Matt Strickland, had his alcohol license suspended for 90 days in September after they ruled he willfully and knowingly ignored mandates. So I wake up and I watch this video where these cops are going in and they're basically shutting him down, serving this warrant. I think he got like a 90-day suspension. And my first edit, I got two things to say on this, and then we'll expand because you've certainly been dealing with this stuff. One, you should watch this video and you should share the video. And if you live in Fredericksburg, you should tell everybody you know these cops are not welcome in your business. If they want to destroy a man's life because of unconstitutional edict, they don't deserve a hot dog from your store. They don't deserve a new sweater. They don't deserve a cheeseburger. It is nonviolent civil disobedience that solved this problem. Let these officers know you are shunned. Look, Antifa likes to say this stuff, but they don't run businesses. They don't have jobs. Some of them do. I get it. But the cops aren't worried about that. I'll tell you what they are worried about. When you have the back the blue people, the MAGA people, the last line of people actually defending the police, and then the cops want to pull something like this, simply say, officer, thank you for your service. Now get out of my store. I will not serve you. And then see how long. Then you're the cops being like, look, I'm not shutting this business down. I'll never be able to show my face in this town again. It used to be that way. People used to fear that. No, if I do that, Mayor, they'll never show my face. Nope. Now they don't care. So this guy films them. Good. The second thing I'm going to say is, Luke, on Saturday, do you want to go down to Fredericksburg?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's support this business, and let's support the people who are doing the good things. And when they're punished unjustly, we should try to do everything we can to help out during those situations.
Yeah. I imagine what can we do? Peaceful organizing, just to highlight this stuff. And I think highlighting it's the first thing. And I think, maybe I'll go down and take a tour of Fredericksburg, see what's going on. Maybe, we can reach out to this guy, Matt, see what's up and ask him about what happened and then get the full details and then maybe keep shining a light on this stuff.
You guys should see the video. And if you haven't seen it, you should watch it as we're talking right now so you understand what's happening.
You could see the shame. You could see the shame on some of these cops' faces.
This is down over there.
We're not here to discuss whether or not
you're not here to discuss whether or not they're unconstitutional. You're just here to do your job, right?
Here because the court made a determination that
Uh-huh.
the court order was valid. The court order has been served. That court order says that your license is suspended for 90 days.
And you're going to enforce that regardless,
We're going
right?
to enforce that
Yeah.
because we have a court order.
So you're part of the problem, man. I want you to know that. You're part of the problem. 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 Everybody in here, every one of you, man. What's going on in this country right now? The reason that we're in the situation we're in as the United States of America, you're part of the problem, sir. So you can't complain about what the president's doing. You can't complain about the state that the country's in right now. You can't complain about how screwed up it is. You're part of the problem, sir. You're just doing your job. So many people were just doing their job for Hitler back in Germany.
Here to assess ABC and the science.
You as well, sir. That goes for you as well. That goes for you as well. That goes for all of you. That goes for all of you, man. There's no excuse. There's zero excuse. Just doing my job, that's not an excuse anymore, man. That's not an excuse.
And you know what? You know why these cops don't care? Because they know literally nothing will happen. Mm-hmm. Or I should say, they think. Mm-hmm. And maybe the simple reality is just say, first of all, I want to be careful here. I want to make sure I stress this point. The Covington kids, a video comes out, they accuse these kids of wrongdoing. We don't know for sure. So we have the general story here. This has been an ongoing thing. And the general idea, they shut this guy down over refusing to abide by the unconstitutional mandates. Now, the cops, years later, when the mandates aren't in place anymore, are coming after him and causing damage to his life. I want to make sure we're careful because I'll say this. Make sure you look into this. Don't be a knee-jerk reactionary like the left was with the Covington kids. But assuming all the reporting we have is true, then you should simply say to these officers, you're not welcome in my place of business. I don't want you coming around my family. I don't want you in my church. You are evil people. It's the banality of evil. But Chef Gruel, I mean, you defied, or I should say you spoke out against. So what are your thoughts seeing this story?
Well, I think thank you for kind of clarifying, because you're right. You don't know the backstory here, but just looking at that video in and of itself, I can only imagine that it's nothing too serious because, number one, if this guy was doing anything that was criminal, he'd be arrested immediately. If he was doing something that was a violative of any health standards, he would be shut down immediately. Gas would be cut from his stores. There would be messaging out there. So assuming that this is the limitations on this, 2 years previous, I mean, that's just absurd. And the absurdity in general of a lot of these mandates, as I've talked about for the past 2 years and have been punished for doing so, people understand it now, right? So you kind of have this reverse process where now the government, which is typically behind the times, they are so far behind the times that you have all people of both parties looking at the absurdity of what went down during COVID, in many cases, not all cases, that making the case that this just shouldn't be happening is a much easier case to make. But yet it's still happening. 2 years later, that is absolutely nuts. And you had mentioned about 10 minutes ago, you said, it was COVID and now it's the next thing. I don't think it's the next thing. I think we're in act number 417 on COVID. And I think the drama or the tragedy is going to continue forward and they're going to keep writing sequels to it with COVID being kind of the main hero here.
Well, they're going to try to milk this cow as much as they can. But we have to understand, with this particular case, looking into it, there was a long series of court cases.
Okay.
And there was a ruling that came down which now allowed the government to come in and seize their records and to seize their liquor license. So this is what happened here. And we have to understand the lunacy that people had to go through within the last few years, how absolutely insane, how absolutely evil it was in California. There was businesses that were padlocked. There was restaurants that were shut down. There was businesses that had electricity cut by the city because they dared to defy their arbitrary lockdown orders. Meanwhile, Walmart was allowed to be open. Costco was allowed to be open. All these big box stores with connections to politicians, they were able to run their businesses. Police officers came on grandma's door, knocked it down because she dared to keep her business open, even when she had an online business. The stories that happen here in the United States should terrify people because it highlights the story of order followers doing what they're told, committing human rights violations against the people of this country.
And real quick, sorry, just Matt Strickland, I see an individual became a member of the channel right now, and it may be the Matt Strickland who's in this story. So Matt, if you are listening, I just followed you on Twitter. Shoot me a DM if you want to say anything right now about this subject matter, and we'd love to meet up maybe this weekend, talk about what's going on. But you were saying.
Nice, I love that. And that's the beauty of communication right there, if that's the case. I was going to say that, some of these stories truly underscore the indifference that government has for people. You say the human rights issues. I mean, so if you look in California, they shut down outdoor dining in the December of 2020. Okay, 75 degrees and sunny in Southern California. They shut down outdoor dining, and then this was concurrent with the state of California saying, "Oh, and by the way, you can't get any unemployment funds until January, February because we've misappropriated $80 billion in unemployment funds." So you shut down outdoor dining. This is the truth of what happened. All these people got fired. Like 80% of the restaurant industry in SoCal got fired. Oh, and by the way, it's going into the holidays and Christmas, and you have no money because the unemployment funds aren't available. You had people just left on the streets, which is why we started the fund to raise money. We were driving around the night before Christmas, handing out $500 checks and giving people their rent money because we had to raise the funds as individuals because the government wasn't going to do anything to help these people.
Meanwhile, what happened? What was the result of these policies? The rich became richer than they ever have before. It was the policy that committed the largest transfer of wealth from some of the poorest, some of the few people left in the middle class to the richest billionaires that, of course, were able to keep their online businesses open. They were able to do things that violated health and code protocols, but that didn't matter. It was essentially a deliberate action. I believe a lot of this was actually done on purpose to shut people down, to make sure that they won't have any wealth with their family
Yeah,
members.
it seems like it's like trying to get back at someone you don't like because they made you angry. But in reality, law enforcement there's an ethical quality to it. Like if jaywalking is illegal, fine. If you're out in the middle of the street because there's a little baby laying there and you're jaywalking to get that baby off the road, you're not going to get arrested. You may have jaywalked. They're not going to fine you for that one because you did the right thing in violation of the law. Sometimes people see the forest through the trees, and just because there's a top-down creed doesn't mean that you have to fall in line. So to go after people that stayed open during what they want to call a pandemic in a time that how much death did keeping that restaurant create? Let's find that out. Because if they murdered people with keep staying open, put them in prison. But if they didn't, what the hell is going on?
Sweden has there's a tweet I put out a while ago. Someone posted the data. Sweden's all-cause mortality or whatever it's called is like lower than most of Europe, and they had no lockdowns or they had very, very limited restrictions. Mm-hmm. So we're looking at all this data. You could make an argument for Sweden's weather. They're further north, smaller population, maybe more spread out. But on the surface, you look at the data and we don't see any strong. I mean, look at Florida.
Yeah.
I mean, Florida didn't lock down.
Well, Donald Trump was telling Sweden to lock down, was saying Sweden was going to have a mass casualty event. This was the president of the United States saying this, and he was absolutely wrong on a lot of these things as his administration started the 2 weeks to slow the spread nonsense, which again was absolutely ridiculous, as the government, their only plan was to give you a $2,000 check, which they couldn't even give you out in a correct way. They couldn't even get that right. But what did that do? That only indebted this country, that only made people more reliant on government, and it gave them not even a Band-Aid. It gave them, it was like someone was on fire and the government spat on you. That's exactly what I could kind of quantify to the government giving you a $2,000 check. And some of the people were really happy. They were like, yeah, this is great. It wasn't. That money is going to have to be accounted for, paid for in some kind of way. Right. What we saw with these lockdowns, with these restrictions, was essentially the elites playing with everyone, saying, let's see how far we could push this. Let's see how much we could torture them. Let's see how much we could get away with when it comes to stealing everything from them, including their own businesses. And seeing that was cruel, and it was evil.
I want you guys to remember when they published videos of a restaurant in, I think it was Leesburg, going outside and grabbing cicadas off the wall, bringing them inside, cooking them, and serving them to people. This was very illegal.
Was it a food truck?
No, it was a brick and mortar place. And then they got told, they got shut down, like you can't sell these cicada tacos anymore because you can't just take bugs off the street and then cook them and feed them to people.
Yep.
That's what they had people doing. Remember all of these news stories? Eat the bugs.
Yeah, that was actually celebrated as being very avant-garde.
Did you cook any bugs?
No, we don't. Well, first of all, I think that the idea of cooking cicadas is disgusting. They're a derivative.
You're a chef.
And they're also a derivative of shrimp. So if you have a shellfish allergy and you're out there cooking cicadas to try and be cute, you're going to die if you eat a cicada taco, number one. Number two, we don't know where these cicadas have been. And if you look at their life cycle, actually, they're full of toxins. But that's okay. Go ahead and eat the cicadas. Oh, let me just say also this clear statement. Shutting down outdoor dining in Southern California killed people.
Yeah,
How so?
Because of the fact that people weren't going out and sitting in an outdoor area to go out to eat with their friends and family, everybody needs to go out. They need that social time. What they did was they had private house parties in small enclosed areas instead, elderly people, etc., and they got COVID and they died.
Right.
Eating outside in 75-degree weather, we knew scientifically, because we all saw the headlines that the protests outdoors were totally safe, right? Remember that?
Yes.
Totally safe, but we shut down outdoor dining. People died as a result of that.
I do not understand the outdoor dining shutdown. Why? Why did they do it?
They said that, well, the answer was, they said that the image that it gives to people out celebrating and dining outdoors is that it's okay to be outside during COVID. So you see how this is all about the image, the picture, the symbolism. And I will give credit to the Orange County Sheriff's Department and all the police force in Orange County. We did remain open outdoors, and we continued to serve outside. We got a ton of support. Our sales were tripled, and the police force said, you're good to go. We're not going to enforce any of these rules. So there are local jurisdictions where there are officers there standing up and saying, look, we're not going to stand behind these absurd regulations or mandates. Those are the places you got to seek out and celebrate.
It was arbitrary. It was made up.
Real quick, Matt just hit me up and he said that he guarantees 1,000% the only reason they came after him was because he did not follow the COVID mandates. And, you know, he'd like to come join us and talk about it more. That'd be fantastic. And thanks for hitting me up, brother. I'm sick of seeing this stuff. I'm sick of seeing all of these stories where, you know, we want to come out and be like the defund the police, like, well, not Luke anyway, but the defund the police stuff goes too far. There's a role for police. The average person who's not an anarchist or hardcore libertarian probably likes the police. But we cannot tolerate the worst excesses of it. Now, I know Luke's solution is typically like, no, it's all bad.
The police are ineffective. They have no incentive to actually provide you a service. They have no incentive at all. And majority of crimes go unsolved, especially when it comes to rapes, especially when it comes to homicides, especially when it comes to very serious situations. A lot of the times you're left on your own. So why not just officially be on your own and be prepared to defend yourself?
The incentive really for a police officer is to protect its community, his or her community, because if your neighbors are getting attacked,
is this what these guys are doing? Do you feel protected when you're pulled over by a police officer on a motorcycle that's writing you a ticket for not wearing a seatbelt? Do you feel protected?
Yeah, I do.
Sir?
If I don't have the seatbelt, if I'm speeding and I get pulled over, I thank the cop because I'm endangering the community.
Luke's right. Sorry, man.
No, dude. The seatbelt.
They're on a motorcycle. That's the point.
I've had it. I had a cop one time. I had my cell phone up to my ear, and he pulled me over for having my cell phone up. Thank you, officer. I was like, "Oh, come on!" I pointed. I was like, "Come on!" And he went, "Get like I'm gonna throw you in jail if you do not."
It's not for your safety.
Now.
It's for them to generate revenue for the
speeding,
state.
People speeding are just out there to kill. I don't think people should.
Well,
be speeding.
hold on. Someone's speeding like, I don't know, 15, 20 miles over. I understand, but Luke's got a good point. Let's break that down. Like you have to wear a seatbelt in your car. But the cop on a motorcycle is literally just sitting on this thing going 60 miles an hour. You know what I mean? It is silly.
It's not for your safety.
I think it is. They'll pull you over. They'll be like, "Yo, put your seatbelt on," because if someone hits you, you're going to get killed. And I don't want to clean up a bloody body.
Yeah, but there's better ways of incentivizing those kind of policies.
But he's on a motorcycle, right?
Yes.
He has to weave through traffic.
No, but like
he has to speed up, go faster than you are on a motorcycle.
And
in LA, it's to get through cars.
But isn't it like 20 to 25% of people will suffer some kind of accident on a motorcycle?
Oh, dude, my dad ran himself over with a motorcycle one time.
You see, like, here's
he
the thing.
flipped over the front and then it went over him.
People should be allowed to motorcycle. I got a motorcycle. They're great fun. Mm-hmm. But there is something that's inherently silly about a motorcycle cop giving a ticket for not wearing a seatbelt. Like, you are safer without the seatbelt in the car than they are just on the motorcycle following all the regulations.
Yeah, and this is what a lot of the lockdowns were all about. It's all about protecting. It wasn't about protecting anyone. It was literally Dr. Fauci and other health officials who weren't healthy. A lot of them were obese. A lot of them were disgusting. A lot of them were just absolutely unhealthy beasts sitting there eating their donuts, telling you, hey, you know, we'll give you free donuts if you do this, but you got to also jump through our hoops that we're going to literally make up. The documents came out from the Fauci emails, and a lot of these rules, they're like, hey, where did you think of these 6 feet? Where did you think of these plexiglass? Where's the science and logic behind it? And they were like, oh, there's none. Yeah. There's absolutely none of that. It's me just making things up as I go along. And the latest scientific data is highlighting how a lot of these protocols, a lot of these things actually made the situation that much worse, and more people got sick as a result of it.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.